Chapter 396, Sacred Sword Master's Proposal. It turns out that everything was because of old astrologer Grace's divination. It seems like he would really be the savior of the Lancelot Empire in the future. Previously in the Dark Meadow headquarters, Grace had a peculiar expression as she looked at him. Could she have seen something then? Hearing Carl's sentence, Han Shao suddenly had some realization. He knitted his brows to ponder for a moment before smiling bitterly as he looked toward Carl and said, "To be frank with you, I have only just heard of this news. I have not thought about what I can do for the Lancelot Empire and have only considered what I should do for myself." When Carl heard Han Shao's truthful answer, he laughed involuntarily and said, "Perhaps in the course of you helping yourself you would have also unknowingly helped Lancelot Empire alter its power and accomplishing an expansion of its territory. For example, assisting Lawrence in becoming king, or you ambitiously attacking the Seven Duchies. Although these can be considered your own actions, their final outcome would still alter the structure of the Lancelot Empire." Han Shao couldn't help but consider for a moment. Upon hearing what Carl said, he suddenly realized that what Carl said indeed made sense. He had been considered a member of the Lancelot Empire ever since he arrived in this world. He personally felt that life in this country was pretty good, and he also had many friends and lovers within the country. In this case, when Han Shao realizes his own ambitions, he is also considered to be benefiting the Lancelot Empire at the same time. "Haha, my lord is truly a wise person. What you said really makes a lot of sense." Han Shao looked at Carl, not hiding his flattery at all. When Carl heard Han Shao flattering himself so brazenly, his gaze became a little odd. He smiled faintly as he said to Han Shao, "Phoebe is my dearest disciple, and your relationship with Phoebe can be considered to be official. Furthermore, Lawrence is also my disciple. You aren't truly an outsider. There isn't a big difference in Balins following you or me. Also, I'll mention some things openly to you. If Senior has any advice, do not hesitate to share them. I will definitely keep your words in mind." Han Shao was initially still worried that Carl would not allow Balins to study under him. Now that he heard Carl putting it this way, he also felt that it was reasonable. Based on Carl's relationship with Phoebe and Lawrence, they were truly not strangers to each other. For Balins to follow Han Shao, they were still considered to be on the same faction. However, Han Shao faintly realized inwardly that Balins finding him today to give his reply was most likely because Carl had received some information from old astrologer Grace. He understood that Lawrence and Han Shao were the future hope of Lancelot Empire, and thus was willing to allow Balins to train under Han Shao. Seeing that Han Shao was sincere, Carl smiled as he nodded and said, "You might have already learned a little from Lawrence regarding Balins' origins. At that time when Balins was an assassin, his hands were truly considered to be reeking in blood. Balins' assassin habits have not diminished even after so many years. I hope that you are able to lead him onto the path of righteousness and not become an irrational tool for slaughter. Can you promise me this?" It seems that Carl was pretty good to Balins. Not only did he respect Balins' decision and allow Balins to leave his side, he was also worried about Balins' future. However, Han Shao's purpose in teaching Balins the god-slaying devil path was to groom Balins into a tool to eliminate dissidents. Merely with a proper demonic cultivation, Balins wouldn't lose his rationality to become a madman that only knows of slaughter. Han Shao hesitated for a moment, frowning as he pondered over and over before honestly replying, "Carl, Balins' bloodthirsty nature wouldn't be altered even after training with me. However, my martial technique would be able to properly guide him and allow him to not lose his rationality. When he is able to break through his own bindings, he would no longer need to rely on slaughter to increase his strength. Therefore, I can only guarantee that he would always be clear-headed and not become a killing machine that you mentioned. However, for him to progress in the early stages of the martial technique, it would definitely require his potential to be ignited through killing. Only by releasing the killing intent he had forcefully suppressed all these years would he improve by leaps and bounds." Carl was stunned when he heard Han Shao's explanation. He stared at Han Shao for a long time before saying, "What exactly is this unusual training method that you want to impart to him? Why does it sound like one of those evil techniques of the Calamity Church? Could you really be as the rumor rumors said being a member of the Calamity Church? Shaking his head, Han Shao smiled bitterly as he explained, it's completely different. My martial technique is a practice method that is similar to fusing fighting aura and magic. I'm also unsure of how I should explain it. In any case, my master said that such a martial technique doesn't originate from the profound continent. Carl was shocked when he heard this, gazing deeply at Han Shao for a long time before exclaiming with an excited expression, a martial technique not belonging to the profound continent? Exclamation mark. What kind of extraordinary person is your master? That is indeed what he told me. My master possesses enough formidable strength that he could escape the bindings of planes without the use of magical arrays. He also has magical powers able to move mountains and drain seas. Han Shao based his description on his understanding of Chu Kanglan's abilities. Ever since Han Shao revealed his demonic magic, Lancelot, Empire's king, uttered had known that Han Shao possessed a mysterious martial technique. Sacred Sword Master Carl had naturally known about this long ago. However, the origin of this martial technique was a perpetual curious question to them. Han Shao naturally required a set of lies to fill this gap, and Hans repeated to Carl what he had said to Balans. When Han Shao finished his description, Carl was looking at Han Shao appalling and said, your master is perhaps a true divine ranked character. I really don't know how you were that fortunate to run into such a character. No wonder Grace prophesied that whoever you support would be able to become Lancelot, Empire's newly appointed king. It seems like Grace's astrologer is indeed mystical. Whoever I support would be able to become Lancelot, Empire's king? Han Shao was similarly shocked and became emotional once again. It's no wonder uttered even had a trace of pleading in his tone when he spoke with Han Shao. The old astrologer seemed to have really helped him. However, the old astrologer was able to predict the future. Was she also able to see the past? Was she able to see his true origins and find out that the original Brian had already died long ago? Brian, is your master currently still in the profound continent? See, can I visit him? While Han Shao was letting his imagination run wild, the emotions of Sacred Sword Master Carl was suddenly in chaos, his eyes glistening as he looked at Han Shao and asked. Han Shao abruptly returned from his wild thoughts, smiling bitterly as he shook his head, repeating what he said to Balans to fob Carl off. After Master imparted this martial technique to me, he departed from the profound continent. I'm you also clueless regarding his whereabouts? I'm sorry. So that is the case. Carl was clearly somewhat disappointed as he muttered, it's truly a pity. I've already remained in this rank for so long. If I have the opportunity to meet such a formidable person and maybe ask for guidance regarding some problems, perhaps I would be able to break through my bindings. For people who have reached the level of Sacred Sword Master Carl, their only concern was to constantly improve their strength. At his age, he was already numb toward wealth, rank, fame and power. Even the strength of a country was unable to contain people like him, and they only longed for and pursued the rumored half-divine realm mentioned by their ancestors. Previously, when I visited the underground world, I met a grade 5 magical creature. Maybe you have already found out some information about him through the Dark Mantle. The ancient lizard king Dagassi had left after reaching the half-divine realm. I suspect that maybe he has also left the profound continent and headed for a more expansive plane. Han Shao was silent for a while before suddenly speaking again. Carl, who was contemplating something, was roused by Han Shao's statement. Soon after, Carl sighed and said, legends have said that those who reach the half-divine realm would be actively approached by the guardian of the plane of the profound continent, and the guardian could assist these characters to break away from the profound continent's constraints. This information was told to us by Stranglethorn Vale's Stratholm when we previously went to the 7 Grand Duchies. Stratholm was only a step away from the half-divine realm, and he vaguely knew some of the profound continent's deeper secrets. It appears that the half-divine magical creature should have obtained the qualifications to leave. Old Demon Stratholm. Han Shao creased his brows when he heard of this person once again, this time from Carl. Han Shao completely understood Stratholm's true strength. A step away from the half-divine realm. It would seem that he was more formidable than Carl. Only experts that reached the strength of half-divine realm would possess the qualifications to be summoned by the plane's guardian. It seemed like the profound continent was indeed full of unknown mysteries. Han Shao was secretly alarmed as he replied, I reckon that Dagassi has indeed left. Ah, such a distant dream. I truly don't know when would I have such qualifications. You still have a long time to explore. Furthermore, you have a good master and ought to be quicker than us. For people like us who are already too old, this bottleneck has been restricting us all along. We can only wait bitterly if we are unable to make a breakthrough. Coral sighed, his snow white hair and loose skin demonstrating the ruthlessness of time. An expert like him could really live much longer than ordinary people, but the distance of this final step is incomparably far. As he looked at Carl, this was the first time Han Shao realized that even those supreme characters in the Lancelot Empire had their own troubles. Perhaps this was also his only worry. Han Shao didn't know how to respond and only maintained taciturn in front of Carl, waiting for Carl to awaken from his moodiness. After a while, Carl vaguely had a trace of comprehension. He then looked at Han Shao engrossingly, smiling as he said, "I've heard Bolins describe many of your miracles, but I've still never truly seen your martial technique. Maybe your martial technique would be able to give me some inspiration. If you don't mind, we can spar a little." Han Shao was somewhat startled that with Carl's status he would suggest to spar with himself. However, Han Shao understood that what Carl fancied was the technique he practiced and not Han Shao's personal strength. Han Shao stared blankly for a moment before smiling and replied modestly, "A spar is out of the question. For you to be willing to advise me is already more than I could wish for. Do forgive me in advance for being presumptuous." Coral seemed to appreciate Han Shao's straightforwardness, smiling as he nodded his head and said, "Don't worry, just use your martial technique to attack me. I am extremely curious about your martial technique. Let's see what's the difference with the fighting aura I cultivated." Han Shao was similarly excited when he heard Carl's sentence, as he had not figured out his true strength ever since he reached the separate demon realm. Han Shao felt sufficiently confident when facing great swordsman ranked opponents, but he had yet to come across sacred sword master ranked experts. Although the Dark Elves matriarch Adele that he previously met in the underground world was extremely strong, Han Shao realized as he stood before Carl that Adele was still weaker than Carl. Furthermore, Han Shao didn't truly fight with Adele previously, purely using evil ways to harvest yin to replenish yang and sucked Adele dry, and not genuinely fought with Adele. Han Shao could perhaps be able to truly understand the current strength of his separate demon realm through fighting with Sacred Sword Master Carl. This would also help him make an accurate judgment the next time he met a strong opponent. Therefore, Han Shao was somewhat excited when he heard Carl's proposal for them to spar. "The martial technique I practice is called demonic magic, which resembles fighting aura but has different characteristics to fighting aura. Perhaps you would be able to sense it in a while." Han Shao retreated a few steps, the demon slayer edge suddenly appearing in his hand. "For Bolins to think so highly of you, it proves that your martial technique definitely has its peculiarities." "Hee Brian, you don't need to hold back. Don't hesitate to attack me." Carl stood up from the boulder, taking out a translucent longsword from his spatial ring. The longsword was 3 fingers wide, 130 centimeters in length, and had a cross engraved on the sword hilt. Chapter 397, Han Shao was fully aware that when one trained their fighting aura to Carl's level, its power would be extremely frightening. Besides, Han Shao had intended all along to test his strength against Carl, hence he did not hold back. Demonic yuan energy rushed into the demon slayer edge, activating the power of the violent spirits within, causing it to suddenly burst out with killing intent. With the demon slayer edge as the core, the killing intent rippled out into the surroundings. The waves of killing intent appeared material, the friction with the atmosphere producing a peculiar shi-shi sound as it rippled in the sky. A sinister and ruthless aura could no longer be contained as it flowed out from Han Shao's body. Sacred Sword Master Carl was visibly moved, his snow-white brows tightening as his abstruse eyes brightened. As Carl was able to reach the level of Sacred Sword Master, it naturally shows that he had outstanding talent. Over many years of fighting, he had seen countless experts as he watched over Lancelot Empire with his rich fighting experience. Coral could clearly sense the demon slayer edge in Han Shao's hand, bursting with frightening killing intent. The killing intent that had spread all around had a hint of viciousness, as though containing a violent explosive force, causing Carl to truly be startled. Within the profound continent, most experts gradually realized the importance of imposing themselves before battle. However, there has never been anyone who could transform this vigor into strength during battle. This was similar to Balin's use of killing intent to destroy a person's willpower. However, Han Shuo's killing intent was more material. Karl understood that this sort of aura truly existed, unlike Balin's killing intent, which could only intimidate a person's spirit. As Sacred Sword Master Karl was staring at Han Shuo swung the Demon Slayer edge filled with demonic yuan energy toward Karl, unleashing the bloody radiance of 10,000 cuts. The Demon Slayer edge suddenly revolved rapidly, the bloody radiance resembling the petals of a blooming flower. With every rotation a quill-like blood light was formed. Midway through the bloody radiance of 10,000 cuts, the blood-colored light have already formed a hedgehog-like ball of quills containing dense killing intent and giving off a sharp whistle as it flew at high speed toward Saint Sword Master Karl. Mystical martial technique. Karl suddenly praised loudly, suddenly raising the long sword in his hand, gathering a golden-colored fighting aura and sending a sword thrust toward the approaching blood-colored ball of quills. Golden fighting aura was something only sacred sword masters and sacred knights were able to use. This was the appearance of fighting aura at peak concentration. Han Shuo could clearly sense the destructive power it contained. Although the golden fighting aura was different in nature from demonic yuan energy, it similarly contained formidable explosive strength. As Karl raised his longsword, it emitted lustrous golden light. As his raised arm drew circular arcs, the tip of the longsword suddenly shot out waves of cross-shaped sword light. The cross-shaped sword light were ranged from small to big as they struck Han Shuo's blood-colored ball of quills in succession. With the moniker of Cross-Saint Sword Master, Karl was indeed befitting of his reputation. The various sword lights all formed crosses as they shot toward Han Shuo's ball of quills, rapidly grinding away at the demonic yuan energy contained within the Demon Slayer wretch. The tyrannical bloody radiance of 10,000 cuts was neutralized by the cross-shaped sword lights even before reaching Karl. From start to finish, Karl had a relaxed expression, clearly yet to use the limits of his strength. When the blooming 10,000 cuts were all obliterated and revealing the Demon Slayer edge's original appearance, Han Shuo acted. The Demon Slayer edge, which had been shooting towards Karl in a straight line, suddenly froze in midair before suddenly following a mysterious curved trajectory as it slashed toward Karl. "Oh, interesting!" Karl exclaimed softly, raising his head to watch the Demon Slayer edge's downward chop as he struck out with his sword to brush away the approaching Demon Slayer edge. Han Shuo, who was originally watching Karl with both eyes, suddenly shut his eyes, fully concentrating on controlling the Demon Slayer edge, using the law of activating magic to unceasingly slash at Karl from all directions. At the beginning the Demon Slayer edge wasn't very fast. However, Han Shuo slowly increased its speed, causing the Demon Slayer edge to gradually become a lightning-like phantom. He also incited the violent spirits within the Demon Slayer edge, causing an endless resentful aura to spread out. At first Saint Sword Master Karl was still able to effortlessly deal with Han Shuo's attacks. However, his expression became serious soon after. Bright golden light enveloped Karl's body as cross-shaped sword lights shot out. On one hand he had to use his longsword to resist the Demon Slayer edge's high-speed slashes, while on the other he has to concentrate his mental strength to withstand the demonic aura emitting from the Demon Slayer edge. It must be said that Sacred Sword Master Karl was indeed exceptional. As Karl, who was able to stand proudly at the peak of Lancelot Empire, faced Han Shuo's all-out tempest, he had never given off the slightest indication of defeat, appearing as calm as before. When Han Shuo had exhausted half of his demonic yuan energy, he saw that Karl still hadn't shown any weariness. Han Shuo then poured mystical glacial spellfire into the Demon Slayer edge, causing blossoms of red and purple spellfire to shoot out with every slash of the Demon Slayer edge. Extremely cold and extremely hot energy constantly shot out, causing much inconvenience to Karl. Afterwards 12 mystical demons became corporeal, becoming malevolent ghosts as they attempted to enter Karl's body. Karl gave a gasp of surprise before suddenly exclaiming, "Truly mysterious." This martial technique is indeed different from any training method in the profound continent. Facing numerous attacks, Karl still had the opportunity to shout. Shortly after, the longsword in his hand suddenly exploded in resplendent golden light as a giant cross-shaped sword light emerged abruptly, carrying a ravaging force as it spread in all directions, unexpectedly causing a sudden explosion. The boulder he was on was the first to be unable to bear the impact as it broke into pieces with a bang. As rubble flew about, the ground actually started to cave in as though enormous force had bombarded the ground, crushing everything in the surroundings. Han Sha-O was shocked, rapidly recalling the 12 mystical demons, and soared into the sky and landed next to Carl in a flash. The demon slayer edge that had been attacking constantly flew back into Han Sha-O's hand, the remaining demonic yuan energy frantically pouring into the demon slayer edge, while the killing intent and the wrathful energy from the violent spirits within the demon slayer edge converged to form a 7-meter-long blood-colored edge which violently slashed in tandem with the demon slayer edge toward Carl's astonishing giant cross-shaped sword light. A fierce explosion spread out from the point of contact, causing the barrier that enveloped the area to collapse. The vast space suddenly regained its original appearance, revealing the original form of the white stone room. When the barrier was destroyed, a fierce ripple simultaneously spread out, causing the ground to tremor in its wake. An astonishing explosive force suddenly rushed through the demon slayer edge, rushing through the sword hilt into Han Sha-O's body. Han Sha-O's descending body couldn't resist flying backward at high speed before finally crashing into the rock ceiling and forming a 3-meter deep indent. What's going on? What's going on? Is there an earthquake? The bed is still moving. Within the rose garden above, the two of them nobles who were in the process of seeking pleasure with beauties suddenly felt the tremors under their feet. They were all shocked and started talking about it one after another. A few of the guards watching over the rose garden were surprised as well, not knowing what had happened, as they aimlessly attempted to find the cause of the earthquake. Just at this moment, the fierce-looking Balin suddenly appeared among the guards of the rose garden, chiding coldly, "What are you panicking for? It's just a small earthquake. We're at the heart of Awesome City. Apart from some alteration to nature, what else can happen?" Balins was a true fiend in the eyes of these guards. When Balins spoke, all the guards quietened down, following Balin's instructions to console the fearful nobles. The majority of the nobles calmed down upon hearing the guard's explanation. However, there were still a few cowardly nobles who immediately abandoned the beauties in their bed and hurriedly fled the rose garden, afraid that there would be a few more tremors from below the rose garden, causing them to leave their precious lives in this place. Although Balins calmed the frenetic mood of the guards, he was still restless, unable to understand what had happened. He had just brought Han Sha-O underground, and Balins didn't wish that anything happened to either his old master Carl or his newly recognized senior brother. Yet the fierce tremors was clearly caused by the exchange between the two of them. Balins was aware of Saint Swordmaster Carl's terrifying strength and also knew that Han Sha-O was a reckless, unfearing character. He feared that the two of them had not reached a conclusion in their fight, and after finally waiting for the people above ground to settle down, Balins hurriedly headed for the secret location. The flustered Balins had just entered the underground when he heard Carl's bright laughter. Even before reaching Carl's location, once he heard Carl's laughter, he suddenly relaxed yet was somewhat apprehensive. A space archmage had deployed a complicated barrier around Carl's wide practice chamber. Not only was it able to isolate sound and sight, once someone entered the barrier they would have the feeling of entering a separate world. Currently Balins was able to hear Carl's laughter even before nearing that area, which indicated a shocking fact. The barrier has been destroyed. Once Balins verified this matter, he hastily entered the vast stone room. The scene that entered his eyes was beyond his expectations. The boulder which Saint Swordmaster Carl usually sat on had become a small stone, while Carl stood on an area which seemed to be the epicenter of the earthquake, smiling as he looked at an indent in the ceiling. Within the indent, Han Sha-O shook his shoulders and twisted his body within the deep indentation. The solid rock shattered and fell as Han Sha-O similarly smiled as he leapt to the ground. "Balins, it seems like your choice is indeed decent. This brat's martial technique is atrocious. In my many years of traveling the continent, I've never seen nor heard of such a martial technique." He had only trained for a few years and already possessed such frightening strength. "As time passes, I really don't know how strong he would get." No wonder old astrologer Grace made such a prediction. Saint Swordmaster Carl smiled as he looked at the entering Balins, showing his approval. Balins was very respectful as he faced Carl and said, "I've seen senior brother's martial technique before, and it's extremely mysterious. He had long since proficiently used the thing that I have always bitterly studied, yet have been unable to comprehend to a level that far exceeds my imagination." Popping sounds emitted from Han Sha-O, who had just landed on the ground. As Han Sha-O moved his muscles and bones, traces of blood and black-colored radiance circulated through his skin like electricity. Han Sha-O smiled as he creaked his neck and said, "Mr. Carl's truly deserving of his reputation. It seems that you still have haven't utilized your full strength. I've truly benefited from this battle. With just a sword and golden fighting aura, Karl stood tall while under Han Shuo's torrential attacks. At the end, his strike of explosive force possessed unparalleled ferocity, completely clashing with his elderly appearance of one past his prime. This caused Han Shuo to truly be amazed. Wine truly gets better with age. Han Shuo understood that just with his demonic magic at separate demon realm he shouldn't be able to defeat Karl. However, if he used necromancy magic as well as summoned the little skeleton and the 4 zombies, he had confidence in beating Karl. From his previous visit to the other dimension, Han Shuo knew that the little skeleton's strength was far from ordinary. I didn't utilize my full strength, but you didn't use necromancy magic either, right? The undead creatures summoned by a Grand Magus necromancer would indeed be troublesome to deal with. Brat, you are pretty good. Phoebe really has good taste. Coral smiled as he said, pausing for a moment before continuing. Our spar has let me realize that your martial technique is extremely peculiar. It's similar to the fusion of fighting aura and magic, and looks like it is indeed suitable for Ballins to train in. Fighting aura only possessed pure destructive energy. However, Han Shuo's demonic yuan energy was able to forge the body, treat certain illnesses, and even influence an opponent's soul, truly possessing all kinds of remarkable abilities. Fighting aura was slowly formed by purely training the body. Demonic yuan energy could form a consciousness and a demon infant, killing intent, as well as the unique energy of heaven and earth, or even some herbs and strange items wearable to enhance demonic yuan energy. From certain angles, demonic yuan energy was indeed way more mysterious. Ballins, wait outside with Brian. I need to properly meditate. I've obtained great gains from this battle. Coral smiled and instructed Ballins while Han Shuo was contemplating. Chapter 398, a structure from the other dimension. As they walked out the northern rose garden, Ballins followed Han Shuo closely the entire time. As Han Shuo stared flabbergasted at Ballins, Ballins said respectfully, "Senior brother, from today onward I will officially leave the rose garden and follow you." Han Shuo hadn't expected Ballins to be so straightforward. After thinking for a moment, he smiled and said, "How about this? In this period of time you will still be in charge of protecting Lawrence and ensuring his safety. When he doesn't need your protection anymore, you can return to my side. I make preparations to arrange for your entrance ceremony after some time. Once we perform the ceremony, I will immediately impart to you the martial technique." "Alright then. In that case I will continue to protect Prince Lawrence." Han Shuo's instructions were now of higher importance than Karl's. Ballins was used to listening to orders, hence he nodded and agreed. Under Han Shuo's orders, Ballins gradually sunk into the darkness. Han Shuo understood that Ballins had gone to secretly protect Lawrence and headed back to his residence alone. It was currently a sensitive time in Austin City. The streets were tightly guarded during the night as city guards patrolled all pathways within the city. Even while the nobles entertained themselves at night, they still wouldn't forget to talk about proper business. Han Shuo had previously heard via mystical demon the discussion between many nobles within the northern rose garden about the princes debating about which prince they should support. Han Shuo had also just realized abruptly why King Uttard already acted quickly. All of a sudden, all officials who had close relations with Lawrence had been more or less promoted for all kinds of reasons. Lawrence, who originally had the least support, was suddenly being ardently paid attention to. King Uttard's obvious favoritism caused the nobles and princes to be apprehensive, as they couldn't understand the reason behind Uttard's actions. Sacred Sword Master Karl, who had always maintained neutrality and had never expressed his support for Lawrence, had declared when he left the Imperial Palace that if anyone dared to deal with Lawrence underhandedly they would face his wrath. Karl had even hinted at Duke Ashburn's despicableness. Even the Dark Mantle organization, which acted as the Empire's underground agents, suddenly had close dealings with Lawrence. Amiz, who was feared by all nobles, was even seen visiting Lawrence's residence at night. This seemingly proved that the Dark Mantle and Lawrence had allied secretly. Lawrence, who had been suppressed by the other princes for a long time, suddenly had a surge in circumstances and became the topic of discussion between nobles. A number of influential personages who had never taken Lawrence seriously now had a sudden change of opinion. King Uttard has been in power in the Lancelot Empire for many years. It seems that before Uttard dies, the whole Lancelot Empire will act as he commands. His successor would ultimately still be his personal choice. Han Shao pondered inwardly as he unhurriedly walked toward his residence. Late in the night the streets were quiet. Han Shao moved swiftly, not leaving any tracks on the streets. A couple of mystical demons watched the surroundings stealthily as Han Shao easily evaded the city guards and returned quickly to his own residence. When Han Shao reached his residence he realized that other than a few guards and the old steward, all the servants had already slept. When Kallus saw Han Shao appear he hastily greeted him and soon after said in a low voice, "Lord Marquis, there's someone in the room who wishes to see you." Han Shao stared blankly, baffled that someone actually came over so late at night, and couldn't help but be astonished. A mystical demon flew over in the direction Kallus had given, and soon after a handsome and graceful figure suddenly entered Han Shao's sight. It was actually him. Han Shao was shocked. He then nodded towards Kallus and instructed, "All right then, it's already quite late. You should rest early. I can go over by myself." Kallus didn't say anything else, bowing toward Han Shao and then immediately withdrawing. Han Shao walked over to the room for receiving guests. Once he entered, the door closed automatically. Han Shao frowned when he saw the handsome Grand Magus Necromancer before him and asked, "Why are you here?" Wolf gave a carefree smile and leisurely looked at Han Shao. "I came over to thank you. Thanks to the skeletal staff you've helped me regain my youth." Hee. "I'm especially grateful for this. In recent days there have been some rumors circulating that are not beneficial to me. I wouldn't want your arrival to cause misunderstandings. If there aren't any matters, it's best that you don't come over and cause trouble for me. Your identity is too sensitive and you're someone I cannot provoke." Han Shao didn't have any enmity towards Wolf, but he didn't have any favorable impression of him either. Nowadays Cassie's group had been stopping at nothing to cause him to lose his standing within Asen City. Even though Han Shao had uttered help, if he really let Cassie latch onto credible evidence, it would be hard for Han Shao to manage. "Relax. It's precisely because I don't want to give you trouble that I chose to appear so late at night. Furthermore, an average people wouldn't know my identity. Even if it were previous enemies from the Church of Light, they probably wouldn't be able to recognize me too. Hence you need not worry, I won't bring you any trouble," Wolf explained. Hearing him say this, Han Shao examined Wolf's appearance carefully and couldn't help but agree that his words did contain some truth. It was impossible to connect the current Wolf, who was elegant, handsome and full of a dignified aura, with the previous Wolf who looked inhuman and had a dense aura of death. If not for the changes due to the skeletal staff, even if someone were to beat Han Shao to death, he wouldn't believe that the graceful youth in front of him was that centuries-old Wolf. "Why have you come to find me?" Han Shao relaxed slightly but still wrinkled his brows and annoyedly looked at Wolf. "Hey, we should be considered allies and are truly friends. From the beginning our Calamity Church has always thought of you as a friend. Besides, I'm also a necromancer, you shouldn't be so indifferent toward me." Wolf shrugged and said with a little sorrow. Han Shao was shocked by his words. Thinking about it, it was indeed, as Wolf said. Everyone in the profound continent was afraid of the evil Calamity Church. Once he showed his ability to refine undead creatures that weren't afraid of light magic, they had tossed him an olive branch and even spared no effort in protecting him. When Wolf discovered that Han Shao had the skeletal staff, Calamity Church's attitude towards Han Shao was so amicable that it made him a little vexed. Looking at the earnest Wolf in front of him, Han Shao really didn't know how to treat him. Han Shao relaxed, no longer having a cold and emotionless expression. He smiled faintly as he pulled over a chair, sat down and asked, "In that case, could Mr. Wolf tell me what you came here for? And also, how exactly does Calamity Church want to treat me?" When Wolf saw that Han Shao's expression was no longer indifferent, he smiled happily and said, "This should be the way. We will be friends." Hee. "Very good friends!" Exclamation mark. There aren't many necromancers in this world and even fewer Grand Magus necromancers, yet both you and I are Grand Magus necromancers. We ought to have many similar interests. I really had not expected that you would actually become a Grand Magus necromancer so quickly. Hee. "It seems like you must have gained many things from the Holy Land." "Holy Land? What Holy Land?" Han Shao looked distracted and asked suspiciously. Wolf seemed to know that Han Shao would ask this question. He straightened himself, appearing slightly excited as he said, "The Holy Land is what our Calamity Church calls that place. Most of the people in the profound continent call it the Cemetery of Death. Since the skeleton staff is in your possession, I don't think you would be able to deny that you've been to the Holy Land. Moreover, you've only practiced necromancy for less than 5 years, and yet you've already become a Grand Magus necromancer, which took me a couple of centuries to reach. This is already enough to illustrate the issue. There's also the undead creatures that aren't afraid of light magic and other mysteries that prove that you've been to the Holy Land." When Wolf said this, Han Shao's heart surged with waves of emotion. He realized that he hadn't been cautious enough, or it could be said that he knew too little about the Calamity Church and the secrets about necromancers. This was why Wolf was able to recognize the skeletal staff. For Wolf to be so certain in his words clearly showed that he had surmised the truth. Han Shao's expression momentarily wavered, his eyes indistinctly revealing an ominous glint. He was considering if he should kill everyone who knew his secrets, but after a round of contemplation he knew it was already too late. Wolf had probably already shared this information with the Calamity Church. Observing Han Shao's virulent gaze, even Wolf, who had lived for a long time, felt apprehensive. As a necromancer who had high accomplishments, Wolf could clearly sense Han Shao's concealed killing intent. Wolf, who was being stared fixedly by Han Shao, unexpectedly had a feeling of palpitation, causing him to be startled. Only when faced with the rebuke of high-ranked people in the evil Calamity Church would Wolf have such a feeling of apprehension. He would never have thought that he would feel a hint of fear from someone who was so much younger than him. Wolf was very clear what this feeling implied. He knew that only when experts who could threaten his life were discontented and had the intention to kill him would he instinctually palpitate in fear. Could this youth who had just become a Grand Magus necromancer possess the ability to kill him? Illusion, it must an illusion. Wolf reassured himself before awkwardly saying to Han Shao, "Don't be so hostile towards me. Our Calamity Church will really never become your enemy. Since the skeletal staff has already recognized you as its master, you are a noble within our Calamity Church. There are many areas in which the Calamity Church will need rely on you, hence we require you to be living well. In that case, if my death brings about more benefits, you all would have already acted." Han Shao squinted his eyes, sizing out Wolf as he replied slowly, Wolf's expression became more awkward. He hesitated for a while before nodding and said, "If we could kill you and there would be only benefits and no harm to the Calamity Church, I think my superiors would have given the order to kill you long ago and not decree to protect you and cooperate with you." Wolf could still be considered as a frank person. Han Shao knew how the infamous evil Calamity Church handled matters. When he first saw Belinda, even though she was just an alchemist, she had already attempted to kill everyone in the hotel without inhibition. She didn't place any importance on the lives of strangers, believing that everything was proper and as a matter of course. Coldly snorting, Han Shao knew that Wolf already knew about the matters regarding the Cemetery of Death. However, Han Shao naturally wouldn't reveal any details. He expressionlessly replied, "Don't stick your noses into my business. Be honest about the reason why you are here." Seeing Han Shao becoming displeased, Wolf hastily explained, "Regarding the Holy Land, we can temporarily not discuss it. I came here to inform you regarding some secrets of the skeletal staff and the Holy Land. This would probably be the information that you long for the most." "Oh, didn't you previously say that if I didn't join the Calamity Church you wouldn't tell me the secrets about the skeletal staff? Why have you now specifically come here to tell me this information?" "I had clearly stated previously that I wouldn't join the Calamity Church." "It's best if you don't act rashly," Han Shao said to Wolf. For some unknown reason, the Grand Magus necromancer Wolf, who should have been aloof and surpassed ordinary people, was unbelievably humble and even seemed to be deliberately currying favor as he spoke to Han Shao. "From the time you picked up the skeleton staff, you're already considered a member of our Calamity Church," Wolf said inwardly before smiling as he explained, "Don't worry. My superiors gave me the order, and so I will naturally tell you the situation of the skeletal staff and the Holy Land. However, what I will tell you is only what I know. There are things that I don't know about and I'm powerless to help. In that case it would be a waste to not listen." "Go ahead then." Han Shao spoke indifferently, no longer appearing as pressing as the previous time. However, he was inwardly so curious that he could die. Only he himself could understand this fact. Then I'll first talk about the Holy Land. Within the Calamity Church, it is rumored that the Holy Land possesses a magical transportation array. That transportation array has the mysterious ability to connect between planes. In particular, it can intercommunicate with the netherworld. Necromancers can rely on their original body to enter the netherworld to explore unknown territories within the nether realm and improve their necromancy magic. Furthermore, there is another legend within the Calamity Church. I'm not sure whether this legend is true, but I've once heard the Pope say that the Holy Land wasn't a structure of the profound continent. Instead, it came from another plane to the profound continent. I surmise that the plane it came from was the netherworld. Wolf breathed in deeply as he explained to Hansha. Chapter 399. Three abilities of the tricolored skeletal staff. Hearing what Wolf said, emotions surged uncontrollably within Hansha's heart. The Calamity Church was probably aware of some information regarding the Cemetery of Death. What Wolf had just stated was probably true. The center of the first layer in the Cemetery of Death was indeed an ancient magic transportation array. It is precisely through this ancient magic transportation array that Hansha could travel everywhere without restrictions. When he heard Wolf say that the transportation array could also connect between planes, Hansha was indescribably astonished. Common magic transportation arrays within the continent normally had a limitation of distance. For example, the transportation arrays between large cities in Lancelot Empire could only cover a few hundred kilometers. No one has ever heard of deploying a transportation array that could cover a distance of several thousand kilometers. The further the limit of the transportation array, the higher the requirements were. Apart from the comprehension of the person setting up the array, a painstaking effort had to be expended on materials and finding a favorable location. A space sacred magus could only set up a transportation array that had a maximum distance of 2,000 to 2,500 kilometers. Yet the large-scale transportation array in the center of the Cemetery of Death could, according to Wolf, transport across planes. This was extremely inconceivable to Hansha. When Wolf mentioned that the Cemetery of Death was a structure from a different plane, Hansha felt even more lightheaded. Seeing Hansha's shocked expression, Wolf continued, "Of course the Holy Land also has another saying. It is said that the transportation array can be moved, and it was similar to a magic tower and was self-sufficient in attacking and defending." These were all legends handed down within the church, but I think they are trustworthy. As for the skeletal staff in your hands, you can see it as the key to entering the Holy Land. The tricolored skulls on the skeletal staff each possess a strange power. Firstly, it can multiply the strength of a necromancer's spells. I think you are already very clear about this power. The second strange power, you've already tried it on me. It is the miraculous ability to let a necromancer become youthful again. Not only can it be used by the necromancer in possession of the skeletal staff, it can also be used on other people. The final power of the skeletal staff, which I'm unsure if you have tried it before, is rumored to be able to open the pathway to the netherworld. The user would be able to enter and exit the netherworld with just a thought. This ability is the most unfathomable. It can allow necromancers familiarize with the netherworld and let them reach a higher level of understanding in necromancy. Each of the tricolored skulls contained a different power. However, these three abilities are only theories that have been passed down in the Calamity Church for a long time. As for whether the skeletal staff has more secrets, it's not something I'm able to comprehend. What I have just told you is all that I know. Hansha had seen all of the three peculiar abilities of the tricolored skeletal staff. Hence he believed Wolf without any doubt. Increasing the strength of magic, recovering one's youth, and voluntarily entering the netherworld with his soul. Hansha had experienced all of the three abilities, but other than the first ability to increase the strength of his spells, Hansha simply have not comprehended the other two mystical abilities. In particular, Hansha didn't know anything regarding the mysteries of the last ability. Both the times he entered the netherworld had all been him unexplainably entering and exiting. It was absolutely not how Wolf described going back and forth with just a thought. It seemed that it wasn't caused by the skeletal staff, rather it was that Hansha hadn't truly grasped the key in utilizing the skeletal staff. According to Wolf, once Hansha truly controlled the skeletal staff's powers, he would really be able to go back and forth with just a thought, meet up with the little skeleton and the various zombies within within the netherworld easily investigate the unknown mysteries of the netherworld and clarify if the Cemetery of Death was really an unusual structure originating from the netherworld as Wolf had described. I came here in accordance with my superior's orders to tell you some secrets about the skeletal staff and the Holy Land. I think that once you know of these things you should have a direction for exploration. The Calamity Church will become your strong backing. You who wields the skeletal staff is an important part of our Calamity Church. You can deny this, but our core members have already acknowledged this. Wolf smiled as he explained to Han Shao, who was currently deep in thought. Han Shao's contemplation was interrupted by Wolf. Soon after he gave Wolf a glance and said, "What you acknowledge should be the skeletal staff and the Cemetery of Death, right? They're all the same." The role of the skeletal staff on our Calamity Church is extremely important. Once you've truly grasped all the uses of the skeletal staff, there will be superiors who will personally come to find you. Wolf replied without answering Han Shao's question directly. The skeletal staff is of great use to the Calamity Church. Is it primarily because of the last two abilities? Han Shao hesitated for a while before questioning closely. Wolf stared blankly, thinking for a while before nodding as he replied, "You can put it that way. I'm not clear of the specific circumstances, but I know that the Calamity Church has some very powerful existences. However, due to their old age, their bodies have already become extremely weak. Some of them are even reaching the end of their lives. If the skeletal staff is able to grant them a restoration of their youth, these unparalleled existences would cause the Church of Light to tremble. And you are a person who can bestow upon them renewed physical strength and allow them to live longer. Hence your importance to the Calamity Church is self-evident. More importantly, only you can open the Holy Land. In the future, secrets regarding the Holy Land would also need to be uncovered by you." These words were probably not what the superiors instructed him to say and were simply Wolf taking the initiative to show good fault will. Thus, he paused before adding another sentence, "Brian, these are my own words. I hope you will have a good impression of me. That way I'll be inwardly grateful." Han Shao was still reveling in the shock of Wolf's words. He nodded when he heard what Wolf said but didn't make any promises. "Alright then, it's already quite late. I will be leaving now." After Wolf finished speaking, he respectfully gave Han Shao a card and said, "This contains the way to contact me. If you require my or our strength, you can look for me at any time. We will spare no effort in assisting you." Han Shao received the card in passing as he apathetically nodded again. His head was filled with the details of the Cemetery of Death and the skeletal staff. Han Shao was extremely shocked when he heard about these matters from Wolf, causing him to want to rapidly understand the main points. Han Shao knew all along that the Cemetery of Death contained many secrets. However, he hadn't been able to decipher its real secrets despite staying in the Cemetery of Death for quite a period of time. However, Wolf's sharing had given Han Shao a direction to explore, allowing Han Shao to realize the aspects of the Cemetery of Death which were the most attractive. "Perhaps I should enter a deeper level in the Cemetery of Death to explore. Maybe the next level might have the answers I need." Han Shao silently assessed the situation and made a decision. While Han Shao was pondering quietly, Grand Magus Necromancer Wolf had already left soundlessly. Han Shao raised his head to look outside, realizing that the full moon in the sky was gradually becoming hidden. Without him knowing, the night had almost passed by. Han Shao thought for a while. His curiosity about the mysteries of the Cemetery of Death and the skeletal staff was getting stronger and stronger. With the magic transportation array that directly led to the Cemetery of Death, traveling to and fro was extremely convenient. Since there didn't seem to be any important matters tomorrow, Han Shao immediately went to the secret chamber and activated the transportation array. Once Han Shao reached the Cemetery of Death, even before Han Shao could uncover the secrets within the Cemetery of Death, the connection between Dark Dragon Gilbert and himself was immediately established. The distance between Lancelot Empire's Awesome City and the Valley of Sunshine was too far. Although Han Shao and Gilbert had the power of the contract between them, it only allowed Han Shao to detect whether Gilbert was dead and couldn't sense his location or thoughts. However, The dark forest was very close to the Valley of Sunshine. As both Han Shao and Gilbert's strength had increased by a substantial amount, the connection between them had become clearer. Once Han Shao established a connection with Gilbert, he immediately sensed that Gilbert wanted to meet him urgently. Han Shao, who had originally planned on exploring the secrets of the Cemetery of Death, recognized Gilbert's urgency. He had no choice but temporarily shelve his plan of immediately investigating the Cemetery of Death. He hurriedly left the Cemetery of Death and rushed toward the Valley of Sunshine. Along the way, Han Shao unleashed the art of demonic nine heavens. Without wasting too much time, he arrived at the cliff within the Valley of Sunshine where the Soul Destroyer mercenary group were hiding. Gilbert had already felt Han Shao's aura and had waited at the bottom of the cliff for a long time. There was also a coquettish and attractive woman standing beside Gilbert. The woman had a well-developed body and a gorgeous appearance. Her sepia-colored hair was weaved into 9 little braids which cascaded down her shoulders, making her appear pretty and mature, possessing a unique flavor. When Han Shao entered, the woman was evidently somewhat fearful, unconsciously moving nearer to Gilbert. Gilbert casually embraced the charming woman and explained to Han Shao, "This is Lania. She was subdued by me in the dark forest." "You've seen her before, Hydra?" Han Shao stared blankly but understood soon after. He couldn't help but take another look. Lania bowed politely toward Han Shao and said delicately, "Master." Han Shao didn't further question the Hydra Lania and only nodded toward her. He then frowned and asked Gilbert, "What happened that made you so anxious for me to come?" "Trunks is missing. There's no sign of him in the whole Valley of Sunshine," Gilbert said worriedly. Chapter 400 Fallen Tiger in Grassland. What happened? Han Shao was somewhat in disbelief. Trunks currently had the strength of a great sword master, and perhaps in the entire Valley of Sunshine only the thrice berserker Lorden could overpower him in battle. However, even Lorden didn't have the power to kill Trunks by himself. Trunks was a cautious man who was also very familiar with the terrain near the Valley of Sunshine. He shouldn't have met with any trouble, but now that he had suddenly went missing truly surprised Han Shao. After he returned from Janet's place, there had been no trace of him for 4 days in a row. Even when there were no missions, he had never been away for that long. And even if he didn't return, he should have left a message, but there has been no news this time around. We sent people to ask Janet and learned that Trunks had indeed left from her place. He'd brought a dozen brothers along. There is no trace of them either. Dark Dragon Gilbert explained to Han Shao with a glum face. Knitting his brows, Han Shao pondered for a while before asking, "Has Trunks had disputes with any powers recently?" 10 days ago we ambushed the Butcher Bandit group together with Janet under Trunks' lead. Trunks and Janet even killed Butcher Gustav. His bandit group can be considered to be wiped out from the Valley of Sunshine. Apart from this, we didn't have any other disputes with other forces. It was Grant who spoken. As Trunks' old friend, he was very worried for Trunks' safety. As the Valley of Sunshine was in an area situated at the center of 3 countries, over the years it had become a special area where the most abundant goods from the 3 countries could be gathered. Han Shao had provided Trunks the capital to create the Soul Destroyer mercenary band with the original intention precisely to take over the Valley of Sunshine. Otherwise he wouldn't have given Trunks a rebirth pill for Trunks' reformation. These days the Soul Destroyer mercenary group had gradually grown in scale, becoming one of the powers within the Valley of Sunshine. Trunks suddenly having a mishap had already impacted the development of the Soul Destroyer mercenary group, which wasn't an outcome Han Shao was willing to see. As he listened to Gilbert and Grant narrate what had happened, Han Shao had been completely silent. "Honored Master, do you think something has happened to Trunks?" Gilbert couldn't help but ask upon seeing Han Shao staying silent. "Nonsense," Han Shao unhappily berated. He thought for a bit before saying, "We temporarily don't know Trunks' situation, so everyone shouldn't act trashly. Don't take on any mission for now. Let's wait for Trunks' matter to be settled first." "Master, we have been searching for Trunks for days, but there's no news of him. Do we keep looking?" Gilbert scratched his head in distress as he asked Han Shao. "You guys assemble everyone. I think we have run into big trouble this time." Currently in the Valley of Sunshine, the number of powers that dare to touch the Soul Destroyer mercenary band can be counted on the fingers. Since something bad has happened to Trunks, I think the Soul Destroyer is next on the list. Taking a deep breath, Han Shao told the Dark Dragon and Grant, "Right, why don't I see Odysseus' group?" Han Sha-oh couldn't help but ask in surprise when he discovered that Odysseus' unique little group wasn't here. They are on a mission and temporarily haven't returned to the Valley of Sunshine. They should still be in the Orc Empire at the moment. Gilbert quickly answered. Alright Gilbert, follow me outside, the rest remain in the valley. It's best to call the brothers outside to return. Watch over this place carefully. Han Sha-oh threw Gilbert a glance before directly walking out. Lania the Hydra was in human form as Gilbert casually held her in his embrace. She couldn't help but speak out upon hearing Han Sha-oh's words. Master, I can also be of help. The Hydra race was also one of lascivious nature, no different from the underground world's dark dragon race. In the previous trip to the depths of the dark forest, this Hydra had once tried to surreptitiously kill Han Sha-oh and Gilbert, which had unexpectedly convenienced Gilbert. The Hydra and Gilbert's deadly combat had instead evolved into a sex war, and the dark dragon had used the mnemonic method Han Sha-oh had taught him to subdue her. The current strength of the Hydra Lania was obviously beneath that of Gilbert. As someone who indulged in sexual desire after she was conquered by Gilbert, she had unwittingly become the submissive one in the relationship. Gilbert was Han Sha-oh's magic pet, so the Hydra naturally addressed Han Sha-oh as master. Furrowing his brows, Han Sha-oh thought for a while. He then glanced at the Hydra and said, you stay here for now. It'd be bad if there's no expert to oversee this place. You remain here. Gilbert stared at the Hydra and chided, what master says goes. From now on you aren't allowed to have any objection. Lania softly smiled in a coquettish fawning manner and chuckled. Alright then, I'll stay here and guard this place well for you guys. Seeing that Han Sha-oh didn't have his previous ruthless appearance, the Hydra Lania slowly relaxed her speech and behavior, no longer as cautious as before. Han Sha-oh didn't say anything else. He glanced at Dragon Gilbert and leapt into the air. Gilbert transformed right at Han Sha-oh's feet to accurately catch him and flew up high into the sky. Master, where to? Exclamation mark. After Gilbert flew Han Sha-oh up high in the sky, he inadvertently asked. Nowhere, just take me to a high altitude and stop there. Han Sha-oh instructed. The 12 mystical demons floated out one by one, flying towards the directions of the big powers in the Valley of Sunshine. The Valley of Sunshine was only that big of an area. There were many people who'd have the guts to attack Trunks, only those that were afraid that he'd be a threat to their status. Han Sha-oh didn't need to think to know that Trunks' disappearance certainly had to do with those people. It made sense when one thought about it. The Soul Destroyer mercenary band had gradually expanded to the point that it had the power to control the Valley of Sunshine. To the other powers, Trunks had without a doubt become the thorn in their flesh. They'd be very willing to eradicate the Soul Destroyer mercenary band. The 12 mystical demons spread out and drifted in every direction of the Valley of Sunshine towards the Kyra mercenary band, the Rainbow Sickle mercenary band, the Menlo family, the Qatar Orc tribe, and even Janet's bandit group, along with some other small powers. Each power was visited by a mystical demon. With the existence of these 12 mystical demons, Han Sha-oh had the entire Valley of Sunshine and its major forces under his monitoring. Since the Valley of Sunshine was only that big, the people who'd put their hands on Trunks would definitely reveal themselves. Han Sha-oh was 100% sure of it. Deep within the forest there was an extremely hidden cave surrounded and heavily concealed by thick tree branches. The cave itself was very narrow and hard to move within. However, from the depths of this cave echoed the miserable screaming of Trunks. Both his hands and feet were restrained by coarse black manacles, while a long and thin iron chain was pierced through his shoulder blade. Thunder Archmage Asa, who followed Florida of the Rainbow Sickle mercenary band, was currently staring viciously at Trunks. As he waved the magic staff in his hand, bolts of lightning struck on Trunks' body like electric snakes, adding many black scars on Trunks' already seriously injured body. Trunks, you also have such a day. When you killed my father Gustav, you didn't think that such a day would come, right? Thunder Archmage Asa glared at Trunks with deep hatred. He maliciously whispered an incantation while elatedly striking bolts of lightning on Trunks' body. Damnable old dog. Ah! As Trunks screamed out loud in agony, a lightning bolt struck right at his mouth, leaving a black scar on his lips. 2 streaks of blood slowly trickled down from the corners of his mouth. Trunks' entire body was covered in cuts and bruises and tightly imprisoned. In the surrounding were several experts that were sent by various powers to keep watch on him. Asa indeed held a bone-deep grudge towards Trunks, which was why he'd secretly come to take it out on him. If not for the tacit understanding between the experts of the other powers, Asa might have ruthlessly killed Trunks the day Trunks had been caught. Trunks looked at Asa, who was continuously striking him with lightning bolts, his heart also filled with an endless hatred. He had never expected the Thunder Archmage, always following Florida, to be the son of Butcher Gustav. No wonder the relationship between the Butcher and the Rainbow Sickle mercenary Ben was so amicable. It turned out this was why Florida regarded Asa so highly. Hey, although I can't kill you, I will slowly torture you. The Soul Destroyer mercenary band has rapidly developed in the past 2 years, but so what? In 2 days they shall be exterminated by our allied forces. After the Soul Destroyer is finished, I will peel your skin off a bit at a time while you are still alive. Even if you want revenge, you shall never have that chance. Anywho, you consider your sister hey, not just Florida who have ridden her, even I and my father have played with her. What can you do about that? Aren't you just like a dog all chained up by me? Asa had gone insane as he screamed loudly, striking down one lightning bolt after another. I'll kill you beasts, I swear I will. Trunks could no longer suppress his fury and howled wretchedly when he heard Asa's narration. The chains all over his body resounded with metallic sounds as Trunks appeared as if he was truly going insane. 1. Fallen tiger in grassland is a Chinese saying which describes that when the tiger leaves the mountains and is trapped in the grasslands, even a dog can bully the tiger. It describes people of status and power losing their status, power,